Good morning, all. Happy to connect again and meet with you regarding yet another session on Dravida temple architecture. Today we are going to discuss on the second part of the Dravida temple architecture. This will be covering the temple units and the components of each unit in detail. This is presented on 6th September in the August body of Sthapatiya Kala Parishad Zoom webinar. This target was on Dravidian temple architecture, the components and innovation in Tamil Nadu. I thank the Sthapatis of Sthapatiya Kala Parishad who gave me this opportunity to present it in detail and with fairly good feedback and suggestions to refine it further. And I personally thank Dr. Sivanagareddy, Prasad sir, Motilal sir, and Kiran Kant Chaudhary, Surendra, and Shyam Sundar sir for actively encouraging and coordinating this talk series to become a success. Due to some technical issues, the Facebook upload and others are facing a challenge. In the meantime, we have re-recorded the entire presentation in 3 parts. Evolution of temple architecture, Dravidian temple units and parts, and innovation in Tamil Nadu under various dynasties. In the previous part, we covered evolution of temple architecture. In this session, we are going to cover the details of Dravidian temple units. So, this is the scope of this talk, Dravidian temple architecture, components, innovation in Tamil Nadu. So, in the first part, we covered the content, acknowledgement, and what is the scope of this talk, and what are the benefits or what you will be able to do once you attend this talk, and also some amount of content setting along with the credits. And we also went into a little more detail on the evolution of temple worship in Tamil Nadu, how it progressed from Stone Age up to the current concrete age and in various forms and materials. Today we are going to cover the Dravida temple architecture units, Vimanas, Mandavas and Gopuras in detail. So in the next session, we will be covering the remaining part, innovations in Tamil Nadu during different dynasties, and also some of the different temple construction methods and unique temples. So going into the overview of Dravida temple architecture, this segment will be predominantly focusing on how the Dravida temple architecture with respect to the lower Dravida Desa, that is in Tamil Nadu variety, how the various components and then underlying parts are there, how we will differentiate them, and how they evolved over a period. So this diagram gives a basic representation on the key parts of a Vimana. So when we talk about Dravida temple architecture, earlier we saw about 3 major forms of temple architecture, Dravida in south, Nagara in the north side, and Vesara as an amalgam of these two in the middle India part. Now today we are going to focus on the Dravida temple architecture. So to sum up in a nutshell, these are the key points. One, the sanctum is square or rectangular mostly, and it has got a pyramidal tower like multiple tiers. So it is direct sloping, unlike the Nagara where it is a convex sloped shape. This multiple tiers contains hara. Hara means a garland of square and rectangle and apsidal mini temples which are stuck in a sequence, and then multiple sequences are there from 2 to 14. The shikara can be square, polygon, rectangle, or apsidal. That is a normally known designs for the polygon. And the temple usually have walls, and then normally in Dravida temples there are no jalakas in the main temple unless we have internal sandara. And the mandapa with the flat roofs on hara on edges, multiple enclosure walls for subscreens, the prakaras, and then grand tall gopuras. This is the typical characteristics of a Dravida architecture. So let us see how the basic units of a temple, which are similar to the human body and the chakras. In a Dravida temple, we enter with a gopuram, and then once you cross gopuram, we come up with the Dvajastamba, Balipida, and then there is a Vaganan Mandapa. If it is Adhigari, if it is a Shaiva temple, or a Garuda, if it is a Vaishnava temple, or Lion, if it is a Shakta temple, like that. And then you enter through a Mugha Mandapa or direct entry into the Maha Mandapa, where a lot of temple-related activities and festivals happen. Then you go into the Ardha Mandapa, where you stand and then take darshan of the sanctum, which is the Garbhagriha, where the deities are fixed permanently and then under worship. So any sanctum means where an ideal is fixed for worship, and normally in mandapas the Ucchavamurti or the small idols are brought out for functions and celebrations. Gopura is the main entrance tower. So this is the basic parts of the temple. So this can be compared to a human body, like the Gopura equivalent to the foot, and the Garbhagriha equivalent to the head, and various parts in between matched to the component parts. And this also maps to the Sthula Lingas and the chakras that are present in the body as per Hindu methodology. So the 6 chakras are mapped with the 6 components here. And also in Hindu belief, and particularly in Shaiva, all these components are also given a equivalent lingam. This is Gopura is called Sthula Linga, and then this is called Dvajalinga, and this is Bhadralinga, and this represents a Jivatma, and this is the Mula Linga. The Gopuram Garbhagraham is called the Akanta Linga, the Vimana part. So this is how a temple complex is visualized to the chakras in a philosophical way. If you want to see this as the actual representation, this is so easy. Now you are seeing the grand big temple of Tanjavur, and you can see that from head to toe, this is how the various components are mapped. So here we have the Gopura, 2 levels of Gopura, and then once you enter, we have the Balipida and Dvajastamba here, and then Vakana Mandapa, and then you enter into the Mukha Mandapa, and you have 2 levels of Maha Mandapas. Earlier, this is with the 2-layer structure. The first floor has been damaged. Then you go into the Ardha Mandapa and Antarala, and you go into the main Vimana. So this Vimana itself is visualized as a Akantalingam, and this main deity is the Moralingam. So this is how a temple is visualized in Dravida structure, and this is mostly common for almost all temples. When it comes to Dravida Vimana, okay, there are certain popular shapes for the base plan as well as Shikara shapes. So these are the 7 options which we saw in our earlier presentation as geometric shapes. The first one is the square base and then square Shikara. Okay, so when you visualize and identify temples, you visualize it as think of a Lingodbhava, like Brahma and Vishnu going there in search of Shiva's bottom and top and trying to find the Adi or Mudi. Whenever you see a temple, see the base and see the top. These are the 2 major geometric shapes which decides the type or how you can describe a temple. So this is the Nagara type of Dravida Vimana with a square base and square Shikara. The second option is the square base is retained, but the Shikara is with 8-sided or polygon type of an Shikara. Then the third variation is you have a square, but when it comes to the dome Shikara, it is a circular Vesara Shikara. Then the next variation from that is some of the temples are circular in base and circular in Shikara, like our Alagar Koil temple in Madurai. Some of the Vishnu temples or the Shakta temples are having rectangular base and with a Sala Shikara. This is like a wagon roof which we saw in the beginning of the presentation. This is one option. The same option is instead of having with the same rectangular base, instead of having a Sala Shikara, some of the temples have apsidal kind of Shikara, where it is a combination of a rectangle as well as a semicircle. So the final variation is the full apsidal temple, where the base as well as the Shikara is of the apsidal form. The equivalent Sanskrit names are also given here as Chaturasa, Ashtarasha, Vritta, Ayatasra, Dvadasya Vritta. So these represent the Sanskrit names, and then for clarity with Tamil Nadu users, some of the critical terms I am giving in Tamil also. Next, when we take a simple Dravida Vimana, let us see how this is identified and split into individual components from the horizontal as well as the vertical way. So we are taking a sample of Kodumbadur Mover temple as one of the early period simple temples, but the complete with the beautiful finish. So if you see this, like we saw in the earlier session, there are 8 basic components. The first one is Upapida, or the underlying foundation, which is a pedestal. Here there is no pedestal, or the entire stuff up to this can be treated as a pedestal. So the entire temple is sitting on a broad pedestal, and there may be some artwork on the edges. The next normal component is the Adhisthana, or the basement, which is in multiple parts, and this is what handles the entire load of the Vimana. So if you see this, the gradually the members will be expanding out and out. So this is primarily to take the load of the stress and then convert it to lateral, so that you have a wider footing when it gives into actual contact. The next part is the wall, which is called as Padavargam or Vidhi. And if it is a single Tala temple, it is called Padavargam. And if it is multiple talas with 2 or 3 layers, in Tanjavur temple or Gangakonda Cholapuram, where you have 2 levels of sanctum walls, this is called Aditala. This is where maximum, unlike North Indian temples, there are no balconies or windows in the Garbhagriha. The next is the roof part, where you have the lintel and the sloping kapotas. Then you can go directly to the griva, or there can be any number of talas or haras. These haras are a collection of many temples, square, rectangle, and with some amount of arches in between, which can be starting from a single tala to 14 tala kind of an entire structure. There are detailed definition for each talas, how the ratios and other things will be defined. The next comes griva, which is the neck, equivalent of neck part, and this is a recessed one. Normally, this will be similar to the shape of the shikara. And in a pure Vimana, this will also reflect the shape of the base plan. The next one is the shikara. This can be multiple shapes, and in a pure Vimana, this will also reflect the design of the base. This is a square Nagara Vimana. And on top of it, there is a stupi with a finial and with a representation of the weapon. So if you see, these are the 8 major components which are there in the Dravida Vimana. But of this, the Upapida and the Ahara, the Talas, are optional parts. This can be there, this may not be there. The remaining 6 parts are mandatory in most of the developed temples, and then that's why the normal temples are called short Varka temples, temples with 6 components. This is how a temple can be split up in the horizontal stacks. Now let us see the members from a vertical perspective. So when you see this, the central part, we have a arch, and then we have a recess in this, where you have pillars or deities. Or when there are deities, it is called Devakashta. This is called Salaipati because it is coming under a Sala Vimana. This is called a Salakar Kudu. So the vertical column under that is called Salapati. And then this is called Panjarapati because this is based on a apsidal mini Vimana. So this is called Panjarapati. This square Vimana is called Karnakudu, and the column under that is called Karnapati. The other interesting component which you need to know is the Podika, which is the pillar. It has got extensions to take the load of the horizontal beams and the load of the entire temple. So this is an additional support. This is where a lot of variations over a period of time happen in multiple dynasties, and from the shape of the Podika, people will be able to identify this. The next one is a sloped roof called Kapota or Corbel, which primarily does 2-3 functions. One, ornamental. The other one, it extends and avoids the rainwater to drip into the main wall, and it falls a little away from this. In the later temple, this is extended to a great way, and it is called Kodungai. On top of the kaboda and inside this, there are a frieze, a sequence of either yali or swan or dwarf or elephants. And this is a beautiful piece of work where no two elements will be of the same design. Now coming to the many temples of the Haras. This is a apsidal kind of an temple with the Mahanasi facing front. If you see from the back, it will be of the apsidal shape. This is called Panchara mini temple. The next one is the Karnakudu mini square temple, and the Sala, the mini rectangle temple. So these three are the components which make the Haras in multiples of 2, 3, 5, 7 like that. And coming to arches, this is called an arch, like a bird nest or a reversed arch. This is also prevalent in the Buddhist and Jaina architecture, and the same design is also followed in later structure as an ornamental piece. Earlier it was a functional piece where the birds used to reside in a wooden and other structure. Now it is more of an ornamental piece. So these are all small nasikas. The one in the Shikara is called the Mahanasika, the grand arch, and then normally there will be a image, a deity, and the image of a small temple on top of it. So this is how a temple can be split into components horizontally and vertically into various areas. So now we are ready to go into things. If you see the Dravida temple architecture, the entire sort of building groups can be broadly classified into three things. Vimanas, where the gods reside permanently with the fixed ideals. Mandabas, where the gods visit as a representation of the Utsav and the functions and the celebrations happen in this mandapa. The third one is the Gopura, which is the gateway to the temple, with a circular, with a enclosed wall round it, either one single wall or multiple layers of walls with multiple gopuras. So major parts can be classified under these three. First, let us go into Vimanas, the major group. So this is a brief description of the Vimana parts. Now we are familiar, and then this gives the components. We can see the Shatanga, the 6 components of the Vimanas. So now we are seeing the first and foremost, the key place, the place where the gods reside, the sanctum. What we see on the right hand side is a plan of a Garbhagraha of Tanjavur big temple, Bhagadishwara temple. This is one of the most complex Garbhagrahas, so that I am using this for explaining all the components. So on the center is the sanctum where the idols of worships are set up. Usually this Garbhagraha reflects the base plan, and this can be mostly square or sometimes rectangle for Vishnu and apsidal for Ganapati or some of the different temples, and it can be sometimes circular or oblong also. So depending on this, inside may be, the shape may be different, like the Pudukkottai temple, where you have a circular Garbhagraha outer wall, whereas the inner enclosure is on a apsidal format. So around the Garbhagraha, there is a Sandara Nadi. This is the circumambulatory path where you can go around the Shivalinga. in big temple, this has got a beautiful collection of sculptures as well as paintings around the entire one, and there are 3 ornamental windows out of it, which are called Ganadwara. They are actually not exits. They are designed like exits with their own set of Dwarapalas, but they are technically set up as windows. So this is called Sandaranadi, and this is also a type of prakara, but this is not like the outer ambulatory path, because you can call it as a Sandaranadi only when this is under the entire area of the Vimana and it is inside the structure, part of the load bearing structure. Mostly as temples develop, the outer side of the Garbhagriha is also covered with the mandapa and roofs, and people think that there is also a Sandaranadi. There is not a Sandaranadi. It is not under the Vimana main structure. So when we call a Sandaranadi, it is under the Vimana structure. So we talked about Panala or Gomukha is an ornamental structure where the Abhisheka water from the lingam and others, it comes and then it is collected and it is taken as a holy prasadam. Normally in a east facing temple, this will be on the north side. And this is the area where the bhaktas stand and take darshan of the god, and this is called Antarala. This is normally a mandapa, small mandapa or a passage which connects Garbhagriha with mandapams or several mandapams. In many of the bigger temples, this Antarala is also has 2 major exits on both sides with the grand steps and arches. So this component at the time is called as a Savakasa Antarala. This is Antarala with steps. In many of the simpler temples, this will be closed and the exit or entrance will be from the front. So this in a nutshell talks about the structure of the Garbhagriha and the various components. Now, coming to the outer, we saw the Vimana is made up of 6 components, and there is an optional Upapida and multiple tiers. So let us go from bottom up and see how the various components look like. The Upapida is a raised platform and it is an optional one. And its components are similar to Adhisthana. So whether it is a Vimana, Gopura, Mandapa or a base of the pillars inside Mandapa, there will be some form of Upapida or a pedestal. Okay. The function here is that one, the ratios of the various components are fixed and you cannot raise or modify the components ratio to a great extent. But if you want to put a grand style or you are in an area where there is frequent flooding or the soil is loose, you can always have a solid base by putting a grand pedestal of height. So it adds to the additional load and handles the structure well, and it gives imposing look. In terms of Upapida, there are multiple Upapida types. The major ones are the Vedibhadram, simple one with only 2 levels of design, and Pratibhadram. Prati is the vari where the same design is getting repeated, and Manchabhadram with the 2 levels of Kapota and extension. So these are the 3 major variations. There are Mayamata and other Silpa Shastra say various subclasses and definitions, but at this level it is enough if you know the 3 major varieties. You can see a sample Bhadra here, which is like a Pratibhadra where a lot of repetitions and repetition of the Prativari is there. So you can see how much height it has raised, and then there is a platform walkway to go through this. In some of the temples, the platform or the Arindam is also wider around this. The next component is Adhisthana. Adhisthana means the one on which it is placed. So there is a pedestal, from the pedestal, this is the base on which the entire temple sits. It has got 5 to 6 components. Some of them are always present, some of them are optional, and then in some of the cases, instead of one component, there is other component available. We can see one by one what are the major components. The base component is a Uvana or a rectangular back slab, which is there. We are seeing the Amman temple of Airavata, where Vargabedam is there, where you have 2 different types of Adhisthana. So it is a good example to take. So here a plain type of Upana, and here there is a Upana with Kumutam. The Jagati is a platform where it can be either flat or curved like a Padma. Okay. As you see, the members get extended, and then there is a contraction, and gradually the design goes outward so that the load is spread. The third one, this component is called Kumuta. It can be a simple convex molding with only 3 components, or it can be cylindrical. It can be 3, 8, 16 faces. The ultimate one is like a Silambu Kumutam with a bangle kind of a thing. This is a ribbed pattern where, as though you have stacked a full length of bangles, and then this is the final exquisite form. The next is the Kanda, the next portion where there is a recess inside, and there is a horizontal member, and then a panel, and there is one more horizontal member. The Padam with the 2 kambu. This is called Padam, and this is Kandam. In this place, sometimes there is a frieze of Yali or Padma. On top of it, there is a flat panel called Patigi. In some situations, instead of being a flat panel, here both are same. In some of the cases, instead of having a flat panel, this is structured by a kapota, if it is extended in a slope. So in that case, this is called as kapota Panda Adhisthana. So these are the various components, basic components. So based on the shape or structure, there are any number of Adhishthanas. We will see the 4 major varieties which are predominantly available in Tamil Nadu from earlier days, and others are finer variations. There are 24, 64 kind of calculation. But at this level, initial level or the level 1, it is enough if you see the 4 variations. The first one and the old one is the Padabandha Adhisthana. Is there in Kanji Kailasanatha. The key factor is this 3-part Kumuda and a flat Bandha. This is how it is. You got a Kanda, and you got a Kumudam, and you got a Jagati. On top of it, this is where the inscriptions are also written. The next type is a Pradibandha Adhisthana. Pradi means replicate, copy. So here, a replication of the frieze is there on top of Patiga. And normally, in this case, the Kumudam will be like a circular or a Vrutta Kumudam. An example for this is Rajarajeshwaram in Tanjai. You can see this flat member, and then there is a circular one, and there is a replication of Yalis on top. This is the Pradiveri. The third variation is a Padmabandha. The key factor in this is the bottom member, instead of being a straight, it is a sloped one and then turned outwards like a bottom facing Padma. Example for this is the Gangakonda Chodishwaram. You can see instead of the last member being straight, this is a shaped one and it is in the shape of Padma, even though there is a Yaliviri. So this is the deciding factor which decides whether it is a Padmabandha or Padabandha. The fourth variation is the Kabodabandha, where the top portion is in a shape of a Kabodam. Here we can see the Padmabandham is there, the bottom portion is in the shape of Padma. You have a circular Kumuda, but the deciding factor is the Kaboda on the top, which is in a like a sloped roof. So this is the type of Adhishtanas which came very late, and it is prevalent in later Chola period. If you see this, even the Upapida is heavy ornamental and it looks almost like Adhisthana. Good. After seeing this, we are going into the next component, Bitti or wall. This major component is where maximum activity happens in terms of variation and in terms of adding new members, creative work. So in a typical wall, from a bland wall, it evolved with adding more and more members, and very rarely, except in the very late Nayaka period, Jalakas were not there as part of the Garbhagruham wall. When we talk about the Bitti or Kudiyar wall, this component is common for the Vimanas, Mandabas, as well as for the Kopuras. So even in the Kopuram first Kalkaram, the same components can be seen. So only in Dravida temples, most of the temples, in the Vimana walls, there will not be any windows or balconies. So people probably thought that they are going to be air conditioned with the central AC. So they have designed it accordingly. Our forefathers are really great. What we are seeing here is the Ganapati temple in Tanjavur, Bhagadishwara. It is a later Nayaka period. See the amount of ornamentation that has been done into this. So I thought this is a good example for explaining all the major components. The first one is a pilaster. This is like, it is a pillar but not a pillar. See, this is one form of pilaster where one half is shown, not the full pillar, one half of this is 1/4 pillar, and this is the pilaster, where only one side or one half of the pillar is shown, the other half is assumed. This is not a separate pillar which is structured and fit. This is part of the stone carved like a pillar. The next component is a Torana. Torana is a arch with two pilasters and a floral arch on top. We don't see any Torana type of this one, so this can be treated like a Torana. This is having a Kudu arch on top. So this is the next development. Kosta is where the Torana is with the recess and there is a deity placed inside for worship. In case there is no deity, it is a simple Torana. and if there is a deity, then it is called Devapashta. Jalaka windows, which came later in the early temples in Dravida style, in many of the Garbhagrahas, there are no windows. This is primarily for letting out air and light, but they made it very ornamental. This entire work is in not in wrought iron, it is in stone carved to a perfection. The other one is Panjara. Panjara is like a cage or something where this is put atop a ornamental pillar, and this also evolved over a period of time. Normally in the gaps, instead of having plain, the earlier Sthapatis started putting the pancharas atop pillars, and then this also became a major ornamental embellishment. And then the other one is a Vritasputika. Vritasputika is a vertical pillar with a semblance of a temple on top. It's a circular pillar. You can see some of the elements in this is the Vritasputika, like a pillar and with some ornamentation on top, which can be in the Biti as a decorative. We will also see some of the Vritasphutikas available in Gopurams as well as Vimanas. The next decorative evolution is the Stamba Panjara. This is the Panjara and this is the Stamba, and this instead of having a plain one, some amount of ornamented Stamba Panjara started evolving. The later period in Chola period, the first one started appearing in Tanjore Rajeshwaram. This is the Kumbha Panjara, which is a representation of Meru and related Puranas, and this is the Kumbha, and this is the Panjara, connected by a Stamba. Then the next variation is Kumbhalada, where we have the Panjara, we have the Stamba, and we have the Kumbha, and there is an extensive floral creepers coming out of this Kumbha. This is equivalent to the Amuda Kalasa. So this is called Kumbhalada, and this is an ultimate exquisite working in Tirupurangudi. So in terms, this is the pillars inside that. This is the Torana. It's a simple Torana with arch and a deity inside, and there is a pedestal for this also. This is given by two pilasters. There is no recess and there is no idol in this. In this case, there is a recess and there is an idol. This is the first known Makara Torana, which is available to us. This is in Mallai Tirumurti cave. See the later period Torana and the first period Torana, instead of having a single Torana, it is a double curve. Slowly over a period, this double curve started extending and then become a single curve, and in the circular niche, they started adding deities also. This is the evolution. The next component is the roof, which is normally the first floor is there. Once the wall is there, there are horizontal cross members. On top of it, the opening is closed, and it is an ornamented extension. So these are the normal prastara component, which is the roof. You can see from bottom to top there are multiple variations, and this is a cutout inner side view. So if you see this, the first portion as the extension of the pillar is the Uttara, the horizontal beam around the cornice, which supports the superstructure. The link to the vertical pillar and the Uttaram is the Podika, which primarily takes and then gives more area of contact to spread the load of the horizontal beam into the pillar. Palage is part of the pillar, which is spread on Uttaras. Horizontal slabs are loaded on this to cover the mandapa. Varabi is a frieze which is below the principal beam. Vajaram connects, and then Kapota is a convex sloped roof, which normally helps the wall and other components protected from sunlight as well as rainwater drips. Kodungai is a component when this, along with the convex slope, it is further extended like this into a concave for greater coverage, but this also need to be balanced with a counterweight here. So this is how the Kodungai looks like. This is the normal Kapota, and this is further extended by a concave segment. And then on this side, there is a heavy load weight to balance this extension. See the normal temples, if you see the Podika, this has got additional support and to handle the extended load. So these are the basic components of the roof. So if you have multiple talas, you will have prastara in each of these areas. So what components we saw in the earlier slide, we are explaining it in a more graphical way. This is from Pullamangai temple. We saw the Podiga. This is called Taranga Podiga, which is like waves in ocean. This is a typical later Pallava, Early Chola kind of a style. And then instead of just having the pillar getting connected to the roof component, there are a lot of Alasa Kanyas which are in the diagonal portion doing the support. So either they are integrated single stone carving, or they are carved and then fixed into position like Melakadapu. This kamba is the horizontal portion where the palage and other things gets extended, and this is the Valabi or the Bhutavari, and this is normally inside the kapoda. So whenever you go to the temple, you look inside this, and then you will have a beautiful spread of bhutas or yadis or annams here. This is one good place to look in, because this is under protected one. It is not exposed to the sun or rain, and in many places this is the most well preserved items, even in a very old temple. When it comes to Kapota, you have the slope, and then there are ornamental decorations like Kudipalai, and then there are round dots here, and then this is called Chandravattam. There are the arches are called Netranas. Netra is a technical term where instead of representing two, the numbers are represented by objects having that count. So Netra means two. This is twin nasis. So on top of it, there is an optional Yadivari. And this is the Makaratunda. Makaratunda is a junction extension, which we will see later on this. This, in a nutshell, gives the components just above the wall, and the horizontal roof closing, the ornamental kapota, and the vari, the frieze on top of it. After this, we go to the next interesting component called hara. Hara is like a mala or a garland. Here, what are the components? This is like a garland with a different type of flowers. This has got a different types of mini temples which is strung together, along with like a tulasi, you have harandra or the recess portion. So when you see a mala, this contains some amount of leaves and some amount of flowers. For this, we will take the example of Vijayalaya Choleswaram in Pudukkottai district as an example. So when you talk about the flower part, the first type of flower is called Karnakota. This is the square mini Vimana with a square Shikara. Earlier ones had only 4 components. Later temples got all the 6 or 8 components complete. These are normally at the corners, the geometric corners only. The second type of flowers in this mala is called Salakuta. This is rectangular mini Vimana. In the center line, the center one will be always be Sala. So the center is Sala, like you can think of a road, and Karna means 2 meanings. One, extended ear, or a geometric corner. The third one is a Panjara. Panjara is the apsidal one. This is the Panjara temple. Like here, we don't see the apsidal part because only the front Nasika is there and the back part will be the apsidal one. And this is an optional. This can be present in a hara or this, but when it is present, it is like A and B. Like in a mala, you have a strict order to say that the rose always comes in the middle segment, and then the early or something comes in the center. Like that, we have some rules. In between these 3 temples, like our leaves, this is called Harantra, the recess. Actually, this is the wall. On the wall, there is a projection of 3. You can either think of this as a string or the leaves that are stuck in there. So this is called the Harantra, the balustrade connecting the gap between the kutas. So here we can have some Sutranasika, or in some of the older temples we had a Vrutasputika. So a Harantra road here will contain a collection of mini temples. The corners will be always Karnakutas. The center will always be Sala. Middle, we can have a Panjara, or we can have a Sala, or we can have a Karnakuta. So this is the rules. Let us see how to identify this. So the A Karnakutas are here, the corners. The center are Sala. Middle, it can be anything. Here we have Panjaras. In the Vaikundar Perumal Koil, you have this view represents all the 3 things in one single angle. You see the back side of the Panjara mini Vimana, and in the corner you see the Karnakuta, and in the middle you see the elongated rectangular Vimana, Sala Vimana. Now, we saw a very simple stack of haras. Now let us see a complex stack which covers almost all the components. This is from Dharmaraja Mandapa, Dharmaraja Ratha in Mahabalipuram. Now we are familiar with some other components. We know the Karnakutas in the corner, and we have the Salas, the rectangular ones in the middle, two, like that. And then we have the Panjaras here, number 3. In the extension, we are having Panjaras because now we have on one side 5. So in between, we put Panjaras. Whereas if you see from this side, we have only 4. The gap between number 4 is Sutra Nasikas, where you have small Nasikas here in this. The Harantra or the connecting wall or the string is the gap between this number 5. Number 5 is the gap. So the way it is structured, when rainwater flows, this flows in the gap between the Vimanas, and then it is coming. Either it drips here or it goes through the corner. Even though the Vimana is there, the water doesn't stagnate and it gets dripped beautifully. Now, in a multi-tier structure, this is the inner sanctum wall which goes in a vertical way all the way up to the top. So the first floor and second floor, this hara can be part of the central wall, or it can come a little forward with a gap in between. Like that gap is called alindam. If these two are extended, there is a gap, then it is called anarpita hara with a gap in between. If you see here, the hara is tied to the central wall. It is called arpita hara. This is a good example to understand about Sala, Kuta and Panjaras. Now let us go to little further on stacked vimanas on how the terraces and pathways works in haras. What we are seeing is a Vijayalaya Chodichuram in Narthamalai as an example. So it is a two-tala temple. In the first tala, second tala, we have a pathway around this one. The haras are on outside. The central wall, harmium, goes up like this. If you remember, we saw also the Dharmaraja Mandapam earlier. Okay, so in this, when the outward parapet is decorated with many shrines without any gaps, like this, in the second tier, there is no gaps. Okay, it is part of the wall. It is called Arpita Hara. If there is in an external wall in which it is decorated with a gap between the inner shrine, it is called Anarpita Hara. You can see in the Dharmaraja, this is the sky view. On the first two layers, the haras are the collection of many temples is on an outer wall, and there is a pathway or the alindam between this. So this is called Anarpita Hara and the first two layers. Third one, the hara is closely attached to the central wall. It is a Arpita Hara. This is the alindam pathway between the sanctum wall and the outer wall. The Nilamutram is the open terrace when the structure around the temple is also extended with an Ardha Mandapa. The structure above Ardha Mandapa as an extended terrace is called Nilamutram. Many of the multi-tier temples have this structure. So later we are going to see Ashtanga Vimanas where we have deities in multiple levels. So all Ashtanga Vimanas have this structure. Dharmaraja Mandapa is an Ashtanga Vimana meant for Shiva, the only Ashtanga Vimana meant for Shiva with multiple deities at different levels. We talked about walls, and then later on we talked about hara with multiple types of mini vimanas. Okay. Earlier I skipped one subject of wall alignments and partitioning of wall into segments. Without understanding the Sala, Kuta and Panjara, it would have been difficult for you. Now let us take a step back and see how this is done. This is a complex, the most complex Vimana. This is the Gangakonda Chodapuram Vimana. So instead of having one level of Bitti or the wall, you have two levels of Bitti because two levels of Mandapam, and then only the Hara proper starts with the many things. Okay. So let us see how, let us understand the basic numbers which we are familiar with so far and try to learn some more complex content. So this is how we split it up. The base portion from the Aditala first, Aditala the base wall, and this is the first tala. Let us see the vertical members which we are already familiar with. Upapita is this base, and then what is next? Adhisthana up to this with a vary, and on top of it, this base is called Vedika. This is normally the base or the parapet wall, on top of which all the pillars and the wall components will be residing. So this is the Vedika, and this is the Aditala with how many questions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions. Okay. Then when it comes to the second tala, sorry, for first tala, you have only 5 questions. What happened is, this was earlier designed as a entrance, like Ganadwara. That's why the provision for window was here. Later on, they had a rethink, and then the window was closed, and then now we have a later period deity coming here. Whereas on the first floor, if you see this, the same design is there. The central deity along with the attendants are there as a single koshta, and then you have 4 more koshtas on this. So on top of first tala, the first level of hara starts. So we are familiar with this. So what is in the corner? We have 2 karnakudus, and in the middle 1 sala, rectangular one, and on 2 sides we have a panjara, which is a apsidal thing. Okay, so based on this, you can have a vertical split depending on the kind of mini vimana we have, and then we have names for that. So the central one, or the Badram or Sala, is called Mukasala on top. So this vertical component is called Badrasala with the costumes in it. We also see the pillars with the Torana and Brahmakanta temples on this. So this is the central Sala or Mukasala or Badrasala. When I see next to it, we have 2 things. People call this as Pradipatra or Panjara Patis. This starts appearing only in the middle Chola period. This is the Pati or the vertical column under the apsidal kind of a mini temples. Okay, we have 2 Pradipatra Pati. You can see that unlike the earlier temples, these Patis are projected little forward. The corner ones, you have the Karnakuda, and then the vertical column under that is called Karnapati, the corner ones. So you clearly say that at a later point of structure, this, instead of being one in single level, these Patis are brought a little forward to show this. In later period temples, as that evolve comes, the Badra one comes more forward, and the Pratibhadra comes a little forward or little backward, and Karnakuda is at the same level. Like that, there is some amount of projection where they show differentiation in structure. So the recess between these patis is called Salilantra at the talas, and this is actually pushed a little from the central line and recessed. And in some of this, if you see the Aditala, you have your Panjaras, Kumbha Panjaras appearing. Whereas you go to the first Tala, even in this recess, we have postums and we have deities. So everything is possible. So this is one complex example where you can segment the wall and understand the components and how they are structured by adding more and combination of components to make it more ornamental. Now we come to the pinnacle part, the Griva, Shikara and Supis, the final members on top. So the next component after one or more talas is the Griva, the neck portion. And normally this is slightly recessed inside, and then its design matches mostly the shikara, sometimes with the base plan also. So in front of the griva in the corners, either the geometric corners or if it is circular on the cardinal direction, the bodhaganas and the vahanas or the kuta shikaras are present. Earlier bodhaganas were there, then it changed to vahanas, and then later period it completed with a series of kutas, and the Mahanasika gets extended to a complete temple here. The next component is a shikara. This is the main dome, which can come in various shapes. On top of it, there is the downward looking Padma, Mahapadma. On top, there is a stupi with the kalasa. So in normal days, olden days, this stupi is made of brass or composite metals, and then it usually contains grains. The seeds and other things are filled in. People believe that it has got properties which will attract all the lightning and other things, and it attracts energy and so on. From a practical point of view, this is one area storing seeds for situations where the entire seed base or it is flooded, and this is the place from where you get the seeds. And these are potent for 12 years. So every 12 years we have a restructuring or renovation of the temple. So this is how we see the components in the Rajarajeshwaram temple with the close-up. So we have the griva, the shikara, and the kalasam and stupi. This is a 8-part stone merged together in alignment, and it is not a single stone. Now, we are talking about nasikas for some time, and these nasikas are arches. So they have their origin from the earlier pre-Gupta times, where the stone arches were there in the earlier Buddhist chaityas and other things, and this design continued, and then they were primarily meant for the birds to roost. That kind of one structure was there in the earlier metal cages. This design continued past Gupta, and then it has become a standard embellishing factor for the later period temples, more of an ornamental feature. So there are multiple types of nasikas, but the main ones, let us see, the Mahanasika is the one which is on top of the shikara in the 4 directions. Corners are 4 directions. If it is 6, we may have 6 Mahanasikas. If you have 8, you may have 4. And if you have a circular Vimana, there is a problem. But the nasikas will be there on the 4 cardinal directions. This contains the broader nasika expanded fully, and a Kirtimugam on top, and a extended deity temple on bottom. The Sukhanasika is that the nasika on the front, there is on the east or the facing Garbhagriha entrance side, is pushed or extended a lot, sometimes even up to the full length of the Antarala, and then given more ornamental structure. Instead of a plain space here, the presiding deity is also represented in this Sukhanasika. The other variation is when it comes to the apsidal or circular temples, they don't put nasikas in the apsidal temple. They don't put nasikas all around the place. There is one big nasika on the front. This is called the Lalata Nasika, which is Lalata means our forehead. So this is the design which is prevalent for any of the apsidal. This is the Sri Rangam Vimana. And Nageswaran temple is the first old Mahanasika which is projected as Sukhanasika. Kushinasika is the Nasika present on two opposite directions of a Sala temple. You have seen the Sala Vimanas or Sala or any of the Gopuras. So the two sides are decorated ornamentally with a grand Kirtimukha on top, and this is called Kushinasika. This is from Padavatundu Perumal. The ultimate Nasika of all is the Sukhanasika, which is present in our Tanjavur big temple. They are not satisfied with a simple Mahanasika there, which is getting projected out of this. They have created a mountain out of it. They have structured it like Mahameru with the Shiva, Ganapati, the entire family. This is like a full group photo. All the Devas, Asura, Ganas, and their Vahanas, everybody present there. This is the ultimate representation of a Sukhanasika. Now we are coming to the Shikaras. Earlier slide we saw that there are various shapes of Shikaras possible. Interestingly, even during the Pallava times in the 7th, 8th century, they have experimented and did work on all the shapes. These are the shapes we saw in the earlier single cells like square and then polygon, circular, apsidal, and then polygon type, Sala type. Okay, all these types have already been tried and then implemented in a single place in Mahabalipuram. If you go and see, the Valankutai Radham has got a square Nagara Shikara. Draupadi Radham like a heart shape, 4 angles and then curving. The small temple in shore, this is a small temple in the pond inside the shore temple complex. This has got a proper Vesara circular Shikara. Now, Nagula Sakadeva Radham is a classic example of an apsidal Shikara. This is rectangle plus half circle. Dharmaraja and Arjuna are examples of the classical Dravida Shikara with the 8 faces. Now the Ganesharatha and Bhimaratha are of the Sala or the back and top kind of an Shikaras. So you go to any temple, any Vimana, and if you look on the top, this Dravida, in Dravida Vimanas, these are the 6 major shapes where you will be seeing. Now coming back, so far we have covered from bottom to the top. Just a recap on some of the terms from a different Vimana. This time we are going to take the Vimana of Pudukkottai Vijayalaya Chodishwaram. So, seeing the vertical components, you have the Jakati, Upanam, Kumudam of the Adishana class, and then the wall contains a lot of pillars with the Kumudam, Palagai, Podigai, the Budavari on top of it, Kapota and the Alivari. So, this is the Bitti and the Prastara. Then on top, when it comes to the superstructure, we saw the square Vimanas Karna, the apsidal Vimanas Panjara, and the rectangular Vimanas Sala Vimanas. They are tied in Hara with the gap of Hara with many temples. Harandhara is the gap between these temples. Okay. Then we also saw about Nasikas, different types of Nasikas. The one in the Shikara is called Mahanasika, and this Nasika is called Sutra Nasika, and the small one is called Alpanasika. In the Kapota, there are pairs of Nasikas there. This is called Netra Nasika. Then we also saw about the partition of vertical partition of walls based on Karnapati, Panjapati, Salaipati, based on whether it is under Sala or it is under Karnakuta or it is under Panchara. So this is the major components for the Dravida Vimana. So depending on how many components are there, some of the old types of early Vimanas like Draupadi are of the hut type. So there are Chaturanga, only 4 components. There is no Prastara roof or the Griva, because just the roof on top of straightaway the wall and straightaway roof, nothing in between. Then your standard common type of Shatanka Vimanas, normally single type and then no Upapitam. Then the bigger ones with 8 components, multiple talas like this, and with Upapidam and multiple talas, they are called Ashanga. This is not a proper Agama term, but people use it frequently nowadays as Ashtanga Vimana. All these Vimanas have only one deity inside the temple, in the center, below the Vimana. In the later temples, they added more sanctums here, and each tala with the steps or pathways in between. They are called Ashtanga Vimanas. This is basically built on the Vaishnava Agamas as the Navamurti Sthapana Vidhi. So instead of one idol, it contained multiple idols in various sanctums. So this in a nutshell is the background about Vimanas. The next one is the Mandabas. Mandabas are primarily meant for not permanent stay of idols. So the Urchamurtis and other representative idols comes to this mandapa for specific function and other activities, either with the deity or without deity, like some of the dance mandapas or some of the mandapas are used as educational or medicinal things. Okay, you can split the mandapas into 2 broad categories. One, the mandapas connected with Vimana, and probably the walls are closed and with some amount of decorations on top, with the costume and the kutas on top. So depending on the function, from the connection from the Garbhagraha, the mandapa next is called the Pradhipa Mandapa, the small mandapa. This is usually the Antarala. This is where all the Urchamurtis and the utensils and everything related to the puja are kept. This is where all the archakas and others will be there. Okay. The Ardha Mandapa is the actual place where all the people stand for darshan and then pray. This is normally a small enclosure. And the bigger enclosure is called Mahamandapa. This is meant for puja and festivals, where the Urchamurti comes out and then stays in the center, and then we have all sorts of functions. The next one is the Mukhasala or the Rathakara Mandapas, where this is the actual entrance into the temple with 2 steps, 2 side steps or single side steps, with an ornamental Gaja or Vyada Hasti. This is like an elephant with its trunk or the tongue extended as part of the reeds. Then we have Dwaja Mandapa, which was in the earlier times, the Dwaja Mandapa, Balipida and everything was in open. But as the temples expanded and more, this entire part was roofed, and only the opening was left for the Stamba to go out. So this is called Dwaja Mandapa. Particularly in Pandya temples, this is called Kambathadi Mandapa, and this is where the maximum number of classical sculptures are available. The next component of mandapas or the mandabas around the main complex, which are not connected to the Vimana. And there are normally no walls. Okay, it is for open performance, open being. So in the corner only there will be some walls, and then the rest will be pillars with open air and open visibility. So depending on the actual function, you can split them into multiple things. Sopana mandapa for for snanam and other thing, for dancing. Vasanta mandapa with the water fountain or bodies in the middle. Nirali mandapam in the middle of the pond. Kalyana mandapa where the utchams take place. Unjal mandapa, this is a unique one. Unlike your normal mandapa, this mandapa, the height is almost 2 times high with the minimal width, primarily meant for the Uchavamurti to be kept in the Unjal and for the Unjal related functions. The Prakara Mandapa is the wall around the temple, wall enclosure around the temple, which instead of having a plain wall, the entire structure is constructed as a mandapa with the roof and pillars, so that people can walk one simple in the sun, in the rain. The other one, these are also contain the Ashtadikbalas and all the Upadevatas, and then many shrines are there as part of the Prakara Mandapa. Normally it is single tier. In many of the other temples like Chidambaram and Thiruvaiyar, other things, there are 2-tier Maligas. So when I see Mandapam from function side, in Tamil Nadu, it has got a different structure. You can see here the main Vimana and Ardha Mandapa, Maha Mandapa, and Natya Mandapa and Mukha Mandapa. Okay, but if you see this, unlike northern temples, there is no shikara or the superstructure on top of mandapas, and then only a flat roof, and it stops with prastara. In some of the cases, there may be kudus and vahanas on the corners, either to the front or in many places, depending on how ornamental it is. In many of the later temples, the decoration in the Vimana, like first level haras and kudus, are extended up to the mandapas. The connected mandapas mostly are closed with the costums and pillars on this. The mandapas meant for open performance are only with pillars. This is sometimes have the corner walls and in the center only pillars. The final, this can be 1 tier or 2 tier like in Tanjavur. Later period, the earlier mandapas had only this much. Later period mandapas had twice the width, and then the pillars were wide, and then we had angles to handle the extra width. The other interesting development is that by 10th century, we also had Amman Sannidhis coming up as outside the Shiva temples. Okay. In Vaishnava temples, it started developing on 2 separate sides on the left and right. But in Shiva temples, this was on north side facing south. So in many old temples, the one part, the northern side of the mandapa, is converted as Amman Sannidhi, and new Vimana was built on top of mandapa for that section alone. When we talk about mandapas, we can't miss pillars. Pillars have any number of varieties. This is where we identify the age of the pillar by the type or the hierarchy. Okay, it can be based on shape. It can be called Brahmakanta, Vishnu, Rudra, Shiva, Skanta, based on the number of sides. 4 round Rudra, and then pentagon Shiva. Like that we can do it. And also in the Sanskrit word also represents the actual numbers. The Panchakona means 5 angle, and Shatkona means 6 angle, Ashtakona, Dwadasa, 12. Like that, it is assigned to one god or deity, and it is called. So this is simple, and when it comes to composite, here is a Brahmakanda, like a square, and this is Vishnu. This is a rectangular type of a thing, and then Rudrakanta. This is the either round or a pentagon type of thing. So later period, the same pillars had got different designs in between, and gradually more and more members and functions were added. These are the major portions. The Kal, the base, the Sadaram. Sadaram is the Sadaram is a place where a lot of ornamental friezes come in. The Kattu is an 8-faced one, and Padmakanda, Kalasam, and then Kumbam, Tadi. Palakai is the final member before this. The Veerakanta is a point joining the main pillar with the Podika. Podika is a thing where it connects with the horizontal member with an extension, instead of directly joining only this much, to spread the load, it is extended into this one. So this junction evolved in multiple ways to different designs over a period of time. So let us see how the pillars were there in Pallava times. It started with the Mahindra pillar. From the Mahindra Pallava, it is popularly called Mahindra pillar. You can compare this with our famous Mahindra tractors of this workhorse. Maximum pillars, one of the oldest, steady, no complications, no degradation, square and 8-face in repetition, simple thing. If you see the old mandavas and many of the Ardha mandavas of the old temples, you'll see Mahindra pillar. This is the most popular pillar. Next, Narasimha started doing variations, adding more components, palagai, and instead of making into obtuse angle, he put a curve shape, and then rectangle shape, and then the Kumbha becoming more pronounced, multiple designs. And then they started a series of animal-based pillars. Okay, Narasimha is synonymous with lion, so he started the style of lion-based pillars. And later on, this is a minor variation with the Yali and with the same design. See how the simple shape has evolved into a very nice wave-like form. Then this kind of a lion and Yali pillars was a option for varieties. What started as a simple lion pillar from Narasimha, then Yali pillar. Okay. And during Pallava period, they had some elephant pillars also. This is the Sagadeva Radham, where you have a lion pillar in the front and the elephant-based pillar on the backside as part of the sanctum wall. Then Rajasimha came in, and he didn't want an ideal sitting lion, and he designed a leaping lion, the standing and the rearing lion. This was a nice motive. Most of the Rajasimha temples have this feature, and this continued. And later on, Nandivarma period after this, so again the lion became quiet, and that period pillars were like this. Finally, after a long time, this pillar disappeared, and during later Chola period, it also came back in forms of, but see the size of the lines, it has become shrunk. The focus is more on ornamental top side of the pillar rather than on the line. But still it is beautiful. During the later period, the focus was on pillars, instead of now people are tired with shapes, people are tired with animals. Now they started putting sculptures, temples, and all sorts of things in a pillar. And they wanted big mandabas. So pillars become a museum piece. So all components of a Vimana temple, everything sculptured in the pillar, Chitrakanta. See, this is the 1,000 temple pillar in deep south. So this pillar contains around 500 temples, many temples sculptured all around the place. So 2 pillars will cover 1,000 temples. Then to spread the load and to have wider things, typically the gap in stone between 2 pillars is around 8 feet or 10 feet. So to have a wider, you can have wider panel, but the load bearing capacity will be a problem. So instead of having slender pillars, they started developing composite pillars to take the load. And instead of having only one joint here, they had multiple joints to spread the load and convert the load into the main column with additional supporting columns. So the classic example during Nayaka period is the Anivatti pillar, where you had the main pillar, you have the supporting pillar called pillar, and then you have an extension. This is your normal corbel. This is also extended to a great way in the Nadal so that it can handle wider load. This is one purpose. The other one, Mushti Bandham, is to primarily handle the extension of cornice into a kapotam. So there has to be equal amount of weight on this side. So this is also extended with the counterpart. So this is an engineering pillar, not an ornamental pillar, but again, they put a lot of ornament in this. This is an example of an ornamental pillar. Later on in this, they put a lot of sculptures also. So the pillar is becoming an outstanding museum piece. Like this itself is a sculptural stuff. So mandabas from an early day, a shelter for people from rain and sun while worshipping. This is the barely functional mandapa in Vaikunta Perumal temple, Kanjipuram. Okay, it become taller, higher in Srirangam. One example is the Srirangam Ayiram Kal Mandap, 1,000 pillar mandapam. And then not only pillars got extended, the roof also, instead of having a flat roof, it went into a vaulted barrel wagon kind of a roof. This is the central Raja Sabha in Chidambaram. Then Prakaras. The entire corridor, instead of having a simple one, they made it a grand pinnacle, and this is the famous corridor in Rameswaram temple. Now it is fully colorful and all the sculptural details are lost, but again it is a beauty to look at. See the symmetry alignment, and normally in this place there will be 2 more pillars here. They have removed the 2 pillars, and the entire width of the roof is being handled by not the single. See, the single pillar is getting extended to thrice its area up to this. So this is the load bearing engineering technology of Nayaka period, which enabled them to have real wide mandabas. The ultimate piece is the sculpture museum. This is the Madurai Meenakshi temple with the beautiful sculptures and ornamental pillars culminating into a central place. So this is a peak of varieties of mandabas which you can see. So coming to the final part, the gopuras. They are the gateways, and here we see the gateways, 2 gateways in this. And then let us see how they are different from these 2. So on the left hand side we have the Vimana. Now we have the gopura. If you look, they look similar to a longer one. Earlier period, the gopura was very small and Vimana was big, but as the dynasties change and as you progress later into this, you can touch the Vimanas and then you can always build more gopuras. So the gopuras become bigger and bigger. Now, this is an area where many of the initial people confuse between gopura and Vimana. Okay, Vimana is the central place where the idols or the gods reside, and gopura is the entrance gateway to the gods enclosure. So this is the difference. But structurally, from the architectural point of view, there are some more. Okay, the Aditara, the base wall enclosure, contains only one entrance in terms of Vimana, or there may be one or two exits. But gopura is a gateway, and then this is a two-sided route only. Here the layers are called talas, hara talas, and then here they are called salais. In a gopura, we have the central Bhadrasala where we have a deity, and then we have ornaments, and then it goes all the way up, ending in a Mahanasika. In a gopura, instead of we have this recess, but this recess, instead of having a costum and stopping it, this is opening like a entrance way. It is an opening all the way up to the other side, and this reduces the wind resistance, and this is also a structure which allows them to see this. Vimanas can come in many shapes, but gopuras in Tamil Nadu, they have only sala shape, rectangle sala shape, and then with a sala sikara. Okay, we have two grand Sukhanasikas on two lateral sides, and Mukasala, this Mukasala gets smaller and smaller and culminates into the Mahanasika. See how this Mukasala is extended a little from the normal alignment and projected. We have kalasas, multiple kalasas, which are normally in odd numbers. So there is a difference between the gopuras, which are the gateways to God support, relating to the Vimanas. Let us see how this gopuras evolved over a period of time. Okay, the Silpa Shastras talk about prakarams, up to 7 prakarams, and the names of gopuras and the number of salais or talas which is possible for each prakara. So Dwarasabha is the first prakara from the Garbhagraha. You can have a Vimana Dwarasopa which can be up to 3 salas. This is to ensure that as we grow further and further, the Vimanas are bigger and with a wider base. So from Dwarasopa up to Dwarasala, Dwaraprasada, Dwaraharmi and Dwaragopura, you have from the 5th prakara onwards, this can be anything above 5. So necessarily when you have a gopura in 5th prakara, you need to have minimum 5. So this is the rule. Let us see how it is done. So the very, very rudimental structure for a gopura is in the Shore temple in Mahabalipuram, where the normal wall has got a sala mini gopura when it comes to the entrance. So this is the rudimental Pratholi kind of an pseudo gopura. The next actual proper gopura is the one found in Kailasanatha temple in Kanjipuram. Can you identify the gopura? So if you see this is the main Kailasanatha temple, and this is the smaller temple which is done by his son Mahendra. This is the actual gopura with a small entrance and other things. So this is how the earliest available Gopura in Tamil Nadu. From this, during Chola period, Rajaraja started the trend of making bigger gopurams. So Tanjore Big Temple has two gopuras, 3-tier and 5-tier, and with a lot of ornaments. And then they had innovations where they had two shrines in the gopuras itself, on the right and left. They had two mini shrines in the gopura itself, along with the normal kudus and salas and everything. Let us see three of the famous Rajagopuras. There are any number of Rajagopuras, and then Tamil Nadu is famous for that. Let us see three famous ones. 1, 2, 3. Are you able to identify this? I think at least you will be able to identify one from the one used in the invite or brochure for this presentation. This is the one. So the first one, this is a side view, not a straight view. You can see the central Bhadrasala projecting so much out. This is the Thiruvarangam South. This is the tallest Rajagopuram, the South Gopuram of Srirangam. The next one is is supposed to be the representation of the Tamil Nadu government symbol, the Gopura symbol. This is Sriliputur Andal East Vimana, 193 meters, structured around 1600. Some people say that the Tamil Nadu symbol is also designed on this Gopura because of see this is straight and this is curved. And because of the curvature, people say that this is the Vimana based on this one. And if you see this, the projection of the Bhadra is more pronounced here. And this is the Madurai Meenakshi South Vimana. It is not a tall Vimana, 51. So there are many Gopuras which are taller than this. Why I am saying this is, in terms of number of sculptures and the artistic value, this is the ultimate Gopura, where the entire story of Madurai and so many Thiruvilayadal Purana, all this stuff is crammed into so many sculptures here. You need a big zoom camera and patience and strong shoulders to see this. So these are three different and then unique Gopuras. With this, we complete the Gopuras and then we talk about the perimeter wall, which normally connects the Gopuras. So many temples have simple perimeter walls, prakarams. Sometimes people make wonders, and in the 8th century, in Kanchi Kailasnatha, they converted the prakaram into a totally different called Pushpa Malika type, where the entire prakaram is studded with 65 plus small mini shrines, each one a complete temple by itself with all the 8 components, and with a sculpture or a deity or a representation of the 64 forms of Shiva. That is an ultimate connoisseur's joy to watch. And this is in 8th century. You can see the small first Gopura there. You can see that this is the earlier portion has been opened up and one more small temple has been structured here and it is pushed. So this Gopura might be part of the original Rajasimha, or it may have been constructed at a later point of time. So this is one form of prakara with the mini temples. This is called the Pushpa Malika. The other unique form is in Vaikuntha Perumal temple. Instead of having a normal corridor with a normal walls, the entire wall is sculptured with the panels of panels of stories. What is so unique about this is that this entire prakara covers the history of Pallavas from Brahma, the lineage from the first Pallava up to Nandivarma, the entire story is sculptured in panels, and it is a veritable historical treasure. Nowhere in many of the other things, such a graphic pictorial like a cartoon kind of a representation is there. So this is an unique prakara with historical panels. This weekend Saturday I am going to give a presentation on this temple. You can see more details on this. The other major grand prakara is the one in Gangakonda where it has got 2 tiers and massive structure. But unfortunately, during later period it got dilapidated, and the stones of this was taken to handle a dam nearby in the Kaveri Kolidam river. So only a portion of this remains, but still that portion is a grand one. So this is prakara, the final external part of this. With this, we complete the overview on Dravida temples, architecture, vimanas, mandavas, and gopuras. So this will be a fairly detailed course. So this completes our part 2 of the session. And if you have any doubts or clarification, you can always connect me in this coordinate in my mobile, or you can view again view this video or the prior or the later video in YouTube, or you can connect with me in Facebook or email. So goodbye till we meet again in the part 3. So for around 1.5 hours, I think we walk through all the components of the temple and its components as well as the detailed parts of the temple. So this covers the part 2 of the Dravida temple architecture series. In the last part, we are going to cover how these components evolved and get into different designs during the life of various dynasties, and then how they tried different experiments in Tamil Nadu. And we are also going to see some unique temples of Tamil Nadu with the different structures. So till then, we meet again. Spend your time. If you are seeing this video as the first time, you can always check on the prior part and wait for the next part to be part 3 to be released. Thank you and have a nice day.